It was a warm September afternoon when I was once more summoned by my friend Sherlock Holmes to bake our street. For many weeks, I had not seen him, though rumor from Scotland Yard spoke of his untiring vigilance against a most dangerous criminal conspiracy. Yet as I ascended the familiar stairs, I could not help but feel that peculiar mixture of anticipation and awe that always seized me in Holmes's presence. The sitting room was much as I had known it in the old days, books and chemical instruments strewn up. On the tables. The violin resting upon the mantelpiece, and Holmes himself, thin, hawk faced, and absorbed in the smoke rising from his long clay pipe. His eyes gleamed with that peculiar brightness that I had learned to associate with some impending drama.
Watson, my dear fellow, punctual as ever. You had the air of one who has left a patient half cured to attend a friend wholly incurable. In
I laughed, for his irony was as sharp as ever. Holmes, I confess that your summons intrigued me. Your note said only that the matter was urgent and that you required my discretion. I hope I'm not intruding on official business.
intruding, my dear fellow, your presence is the one intrusion that I always welcome. Sit down, and I shall endeavor to explain the predicament which threatens to shake the very stability of our good government.
He leaned back in his chair, the faintest smile playing about his lips, and blew a thin spiral of smoke toward the ceiling. I noticed that his manner was more deliberate than usual, almost theatrical, as though he played not merely for my benefit but for unseen eyes.
You have heard, of course, of the Mazarin Stone?
The name has been much in the papers. A diamond of extraordinary value, if I remember correctly, once part of the French crown jewels and lately in possession of the British government.
Precisely. Hmm, it is worth something in the neighborhood of £100,000, enough to purchase half the peerage. It was entrusted to the care of Lord Cantlemere, who, in his turn, placed it in the strong room of the Tower. Yet within the week it vanished as though spirited away by the devil himself.
Good heavens, I exclaimed. Surely that is impossible. Was the theft discovered immediately?
Not immediately. The circumstances were delicate. The loss, if publicly known, might have provoked a European scandal. The utmost secrecy has been maintained. The Prime Minister himself visited me yesterday and implored my assistance. The case, Watson, is as subtle as any we have encountered.
I saw that his eyes gleamed with the fierce light of intellectual excitement. Holmes lived for such moments when some intricate web of human deceit challenged his unmatched powers of deduction. You have a clue? I asked.
I have more than a clue. I have the culprits, though not, as yet, the gem itself. Two names, my dear Watson: Count Negretto Sylvius, adventurer, gambler, and one of the most finished rogues in Europe, and his jackal, Sam Merton, a boxer of some repute but little brain. They have the stone, or had it yesterday. Whether they will have it tonight is another matter.
I was astonished at the calm confidence with which he spoke. You mean, Holmes, that you know where they are?
Within a mile of this room, but to arrest them without the stone would be a barren triumph. The recovery of the Mazarin is imperative. It is the only evidence which can save Lord Cantlemere from disgrace and the government from ridicule.
He rose and walked slowly to the window, where the afternoon sunlight streamed through the lace curtains and lit his lean profile with a strange luminosity.
Observe, Watson, the figure in the street below. The tall fellow in the grey overcoat, Count Sylvius himself. He believes me to be out. He has called twice already, but I have not seen him. He will call again this evening, and then, my friend, we shall see whether human cunning can prevail against deduction.
You mean to confront him here, in your rooms? I asked anxiously. Holmes, the man is desperate. He would not hesitate at violence.
Violence, my dear Watson, is the last refuge of the incompetent. Besides, I have taken precautions. Look there.
He gestured toward the far corner of the room, where, to my astonishment, I perceived a life-size wax effigy of Holmes himself seated in an armchair, pipe in hand, its features strikingly lifelike in the dim light. Good heavens, what devilry is this?
Merely a friend from madam to swords. A most accommodating gentleman lent it for a small consideration. It serves, you see, as bait for the trap.
A trap? Hmm.
Indeed, the Count suspects that I possess knowledge dangerous to him. He means to silence me, and tonight he will make his attempt. But he shall find that Sherlock Holmes is not so easily disposed of. Is
I confess that I was uneasy. You cannot mean to remain here unprotected while he enters?
quite the reverse. When he enters, I shall not be here at all, at least not visibly. There is a small passage behind the bookcase, leading to a curtained alcove, from which I may observe unseen whatever passes in this room.
Dizin. Holmes, I cried, you risk your life.
My life, Watson, is but a trifle compared to the security of the realm. Besides, I have a fair chance of success, and even if I fail, you will bear witness to my end with appropriate medical decorum.
Oh, he smiled as he said this, and I saw that remonstrance was useless. His will, once set, was immovable. Yet I could not suppress a shiver at the thought of that sinister figure in the street below, waiting for darkness to fall.
Before we proceed further, Watson, let me instruct you in your role. When the Count arrives, you will greet him as though I were at liberty. You will inform him that I am engaged with the Prime Minister, but will return shortly, offer him a seat, and engage him in conversation. Nothing more.
And if he suspects treachery?
Then you must play your part as though you had never heard the word. Leave the rest to me.
I nodded reluctantly. Holmes, you make me your accomplice in a most perilous drama.
Nonsense. You are merely my most trusted witness. And now, Watson, since we have some hours before us, I suggest a quiet dinner at Simpson's. I have always found that the digestion of a good roast aids the digestion of a good plan.
And so it was that as the sun dipped behind the roofs of Baker Street, we sallied forth into the evening bustle of London. Holmes was in the highest spirits, discoursing with lively wit upon the psychology of criminals and the virtues of patient observation. His lean face, pale in the gaslight, bore that peculiar serenity which came to him only when danger was imminent. We returned about 9 o'clock. The street was quiet, save for the clatter of a distant hansom and the hoarse cry of a newspaper boy proclaiming the latest political scandal. Inside, the blinds were drawn, and the wax figure sat motionless in the lamplight, so lifelike that I started each time my eye fell upon it.
Remember, Watson, whatever happens, remain calm. Our visitor must believe that I am unaware of his designs.
He slipped behind the curtain with the noiselessness of a cat, leaving me alone with my thoughts. Never had the room seemed so oppressive, nor the ticking of the clock so loud. The wax effigy stared eternally at the fireplace, while I, seated near the window, tried to steady my nerves. 10 minutes passed, then 15. At last there came a soft knock upon the door. Come in, I said, striving to keep my voice steady.
Good evening, Dr. Watson. I trust Mr. Holmes is within. I have pressing business with him.
Mr. Holmes is unfortunately engaged upon confidential matters, I replied, thinking lice pangs to return momentarily. Pray, be seated.
He bowed slightly, though his dark eyes darted about the room with quick suspicion. There was in his manner that mixture of courtesy and cruelty which betrays the practiced scoundrel. Your friend keeps curious company, Doctor. I trust he has no objection to late visitors.
He is accustomed to them, I answered. His door has never been closed to those who seek truth, or to those who flee from it.
A witty answer, sir. Let us hope it proves prophetic.
He took a seat near the window, but his eyes kept strained toward the figure of Holmes. I felt my heart leap as his hand moved inside his coat. You admire the likeness, I said quickly, striving to draw his attention to conversation.
Likeness? Ah, indeed. It is so perfect that one might almost take it for the man himself, were it not that I know Sherlock Holmes to be more cautious than to sit thus unguarded.
His tone was edged with menace. I could see the gleam of a revolver half drawn from his pocket. Sir, I cried, you forget yourself.
On the contrary, Doctor, I remember myself all too well. The man who meddles in my affairs must answer for it, and if your friend Holmes has deceived me, he shall pay for it before the clock strikes 10.
My breath caught in my throat as he rose, the pistol gleaming in the lamplight. For a moment that seemed to stretch into eternity, Count Sylvius stood motionless, his pistol half raised, his sharp eyes glinting beneath dark brows. The waxen figure of Holmes sat unperturbed before the fire, its calm, lifeless face an intolerable mockery of the danger that filled the room. I felt the pulse hammer in my throat, but I dared not move or call aloud. Sir, I said as steadily as I could, you forget that this is the house of a gentleman, and that violence here will avail you nothing. Mr. Holmes will return at any moment.
Return? Ha! My good doctor, I know the habits of your friend better than you suppose. When Sherlock Holmes goes abroad, he does not hurry home to entertain casual callers. You shall forgive me, but I think he is closer at hand than you pretend.
I swallowed hard. The Count's tone was smooth, but his finger trembled upon the trigger. For an instant, I thought of springing forward to seize his arm, yet I knew that the faintest misstep might end both the statue and myself. I could only pray that Holmes, hidden behind his curtain, had measured every possibility.
Tell me, doctor, what is that figure doing there by the fire? Is it his waxen ghost, or does your friend amuse himself by sleeping upright?
It is a whim of Mr. Holmes, I answered. He finds the likeness diverting.
Diverting? Perhaps it will serve to divert a bullet as well.
With deliberate malice, he raised the weapon and aimed directly at the head of the dummy. Before I could cry out, there came a sharp click from behind the curtain, followed by the calm, unhurried voice of Holmes himself.
Do not fire, Count Sylvius. The glass would shatter, and I have no wish to pay my landlord for a new window.
The Count started violently, the revolver wavering in his hand. Holmes stepped from his concealment with that easy composure which to me has always seemed the perfection of courage. He closed the curtain behind him, folded his arms, and regarded our visitor with an expression of polite amusement.
You see, Count, wax is less resilient than flesh, and it would have been a pity to ruin such good craftsmanship. Your aim, I fear, might not have been so accurate if the object had stirred.
You devil! So you were here all the while.
Hmm, naturally. And you did not imagine that I should trust myself within the reach of a man who carries a revolver for ornament. Sit down, Count Sylvius, and let us discuss this little matter like rational beings.
You have tricked me, Holmes, and by heaven you shall pay for it.
My dear sir, threats are the last resort of the bankrupt. You have already lost your capital of deception. Pray, do not squander your credit of manners as well. Now, put that joy in your pocket, or the conversation ends before it begins.
The Count hesitated, glaring from Holmes to me, but something in the detective's steady gaze mastered his fury. He slipped the weapon back into his coat and threw himself sullenly into a chair.
Excellent. Now we may proceed. The Mazarin Stone. Count, where is it?
The Mazarin Stone? I have never heard of it.
Fie, sir. Your memory fails you. Let me assist it. You and one Sam Merton visited a certain gentleman in the gaming rooms of the Albany 3 nights ago. There was an exchange, an object wrapped in chamois leather, and later a small quarrel about the division of profits. The police know nothing of that quarrel yet, but I do.
You speak with confidence, Mr. Holmes, but without proof.
Proof is the occupation of the police. Inference is mine. And I infer from your pallor and your clenched hands that the stone is hidden somewhere not far from here. Cum.
The Count's lips tightened, and I saw the faint twitch that always betrayed a guilty conscience under Holmes's relentless analysis.
Shall I tell you where, Count? It is in the hollow heel of your left boot.
You are mad.
Possibly. Yet I observe that you have worn that pair for 3 consecutive days, though the weather is fair and the leather thin. Moreover, you keep your feet unusually still, lest some hard object shift within them. Come, sir, shall I summon Inspector Lestrade to verify my lunacy?
Sylvius sprang to his feet, white with fury.
You dare not. The police would laugh at such a tale.
Perhaps, but they would cease laughing when they found the diamond. Sit down, Count. It ill becomes a man of the world to lose his temper before a mere theorist.
For a long moment, he stood breathing heavily, then flung himself down again, muttering curses beneath his breath. Holmes regarded him with the indulgent smile of a tutor watching a dull pupil.
You see, my dear Watson, how simple are the principles of detection when once reduced to method. The whole art consists in observing that which others overlook and reasoning backward from effect to cause.
And you reason backward from the Count's boot to the disappearance of a crown jewel, I said.
Precisely so. Elementary, is it not?
You play with words, Mr. Holmes, but you cannot prove possession. I deny everything.
Denial, Count, is the shadow of confession. Still, I am not unreasonable. Return the stone within the hour, and I shall promise that your name be omitted from the official report. Persist in obstinacy, and Scotland Yard will furnish you with free lodging for the next 10 years.
You think to frighten me with your threats of prison? I have friends who would move heaven and earth before I spent a night in Gao.
Friends? Ah, yes, the same friends who deserted you in Vienna, in Madrid, in Tangier. You overrate friendship, Count. Gold is a more faithful ally, but only when one retains it.
Sylvius's hand twitched toward his coat again, but Holmes's eyes arrested him.
Do not, I beg you. My friend Watson is a medical man, but even he cannot restore a brain that has been removed by accident. Let us preserve our conversation from tragedy.
The Count dropped his hand with a snarl. There was silence, save for the ticking clock. At last Holmes spoke again, his tone now softer, almost persuasive.
Come, Count, you are a man of sense. The net is closing. The yard watches your every movement. Give up the stone. Keep your liberty and a caution of your reputation. It is the only bargain left to you.
And if I refuse?
Then tomorrow morning you will read in every paper of London how Sherlock Holmes recovered the Mazarin Stone and exposed the daring thief who thought to rival Professor Moriarty.
You speak that name lightly. He was a greater man than you.
In organization, perhaps. In intellect, never. But we digress. Your answer, Count?
I must consult my associate.
Ah, Sam Merton. Indeed, I have sent for him. He will be here presently. We may then conclude our negotiations in a more complete company.
The Count started. You have sent for him? He echoed.
Certainly. I thought it, but courteous to inform both partners of my little proposition, I wrote a brief note in your name, which he will have received an hour ago.
You forged my hand?
Let us say I imitated it. I have had practice. It will save time and misunderstanding. He should be knocking even now.
Almost as if at the cue of a stage actor, there came a heavy tread upon the stairs. The door opened and a large bull-necked man entered, his coarse features betraying bewilderment at the sight before him.
What's all this, Count? You sent for me. Said it was urgent.
So he did, Sam. Or rather, our friend here did, to trap us both.
Trap us? What game's this, Mr. Holmes?
A simple one, Mr. Merton. I offer you and your companion a choice. Freedom in exchange for the Mazarin Stone or arrest within 10 minutes. The police await my signal.
Police? You wouldn't dare.
Would I not? Step to the window, Watson.
I obeyed, lifting a corner of the blind. Quote, below, in the gaslit street, I could see two uniformed constables loitering beside a cab.
You see, gentlemen, the law is patient. It will wait exactly as long as I desire, and not a minute more.
Merton, this fool bluffs. The stone is safe. He cannot touch us.
Maybe. But I've had enough of prisons, Count. I'll not swing for your pride.
You cur! Do you think to sell me?
Gentlemen, please, let us maintain civility. I should dislike to have blood upon my carpet. You have 5 minutes to decide. I shall step into the next room. When I return, you will have either the stone or each other's throats.
With that quiet menace, which was more terrible than any shout, Holmes passed into his bedroom. closing the door behind him. The two villains remained glaring like trapped beasts. I kept to my chair, unwilling to interfere, my heart pounding with apprehension of what might follow.
You fool, Merton. He's bluffing. He has nothing.
I tell you, he's not. You don't know that devil as I do. He always gets what he's after. Hand it over, Count, and let's be quit of him.
Never. It's mine. I risked everything for it.
Then risk the gallows too, for I'll not share it. Give me the stone!
They were on their feet, voices rising, faces distorted with greed and fear. I half rose to call Holmes, but at that instant his door opened again, and he appeared with the same air of unconcern as before.
Well, gentlemen, have reason and conscience prevailed?
Count, give it him. It's not worth our necks.
Never. Never. While I live.
Then I fear, Count, that your life will shortly become a matter of legal interest.
Crossed the room to the bell pull, his hand upon the cord. The Count sprang forward, but Merton seized him by the arm.
Don't be a fool, Sylvius. You'll ruin us both. Give it up.
There was a struggle, a muttered oath, and then the sharp crack of a heel striking the floor. Something small and glittering rolled across the carpet to Holmes's feet. He stooped, picked it up, and held it to the light.
The Mazarin Stone, gentlemen, your tempers have saved me the trouble of further persuasion.
Slid the gem into his pocket and turned to the window.
Inspector Lestrade, if you please.
The door opened almost instantly, and the familiar figure of the Scotland Yard detective entered, calm and efficient as ever.
I thought you'd want me, Mr. Holmes. 2 constables are waiting below.
Thank you, Lestrade. Take charge of these gentlemen. The smaller parcel in my pocket you will deliver to Lord Cantlemere at once.
The two criminals were led away, Sylvius cursing under his breath, Merton silent and sullen. When the door closed behind them, Holmes threw himself into his chair and laughed softly.
The human comedy, Watson. Observe how greed turns accomplices into accusers. Yeah, clearly everything is elementary.
You planned it all from the beginning? I asked in wonder.
From the moment I learned that Count Sylvius had been seen limping after his escape from the tower, a heavy heel, a hollow sound, such small facts, yet sufficient. Now, my dear fellow, perhaps we may resume our interrupted dinner.
And thus ended one of the strangest adventures that ever came our way, an affair of shadows and revelry, of wax and cunning. But above all of that, supreme intelligence which made Sherlock Holmes the terror of evildoers and the friend of all honest men. It was somewhat past 10 o'clock when the last echo of the departing constables died away, leaving Holmes and me once more alone in our familiar sitting room. The waxen effigy still sat in its chair, a silent witness to the evening's drama. The air of tension that had gripped the place seemed to melt away, replaced by a calm that was almost eerie in its completeness. Holmes rose, stretched his long limbs, and glanced at me with a faint smile, half fatigue, half triumph.
You look pale, my dear Watson. The adventure has taxed your nerves more than mine. Yet, if I mistake not, you are secretly pleased that your humble companion is still among the living.
My dear Holmes, I replied earnestly, you have played a game tonight which few men in England would have dared to attempt. I cannot but marvel at your composure in the face of such peril.
Peril? The word is an exaggeration, my good fellow. The Count is a man of temper, not of true courage. Had he fired, it would have been at my effigy, not at me. Still, I must confess that I am glad the matter has been concluded without unpleasant consequences.
He crossed to the mantel and took up his violin, drawing from it a single note so sweet and resonant that I felt my heart soften, as in old days when music soothed his restless spirit.
You see, Watson, how art and science unite in the service of reason. The violin teaches patience as deduction teaches logic. Both demand restraint, both reward precision.
I smiled, for I knew that this mingling of poetry and analysis was the secret of his genius. Yet before I could reply, there came a knock upon the door.
Come in.
Mr. Holmes, the prisoners have been lodged safely and the stone has been delivered to Lord Cantlemere's servant, as you directed. Off!
Excellent. Did the noble lord express any message?
None, sir, save that he will wait upon you at once, if convenient.
Wait upon me? A rare condescension. Lord Cantlemere does not often honour humble lodgings such as these. Very well, Lestrade, show him up.
Star withdrew, and Hester, and within a few moments the heavy tread of an elderly gentleman sounded upon the stair. He entered, a tall, austere figure, his countenance lined with age and pride, his manner one of cold authority. His frock coat was of the latest cut, his cravat immaculate, and his grey eyes fixed upon Holmes with an expression of severe disapproval.
Mr. Sherlock Holmes, I presume. I am Lord Cantlemere. You have been interfering, sir, in matters of state.
Interfering, my lord? That is an ungracious word for what was intended as assistance.
Assistance? The Home Office was unaware that you had any official sanction to act in this affair. You have taken upon yourself to handle property of the Crown, and you have, I fear, exceeded your authority.
Holmes bowed slightly, the faintest gleam of amusement in his eyes.
Your lordship is quite right. I have exceeded my authority, as I have done, I regret to say, on several previous occasions to the ultimate benefit of Her Majesty's government.
That remains to be seen. I am here to demand the immediate restoration of the Mazarin Stone to the Treasury's custody.
The stone, my lord, has already been restored. Inspector Lestrade, with commendable promptitude, delivered it to your own footman not 15 minutes ago.
Impossible! My servant brought no such report.
Then I fear your servant may be less communicative than I supposed. The gem is now safely in your house, where it will shine tomorrow under the electric lamps of the Treasury Room.
Tutus. The nobleman regarded Holmes for a moment with frozen incredulity.
I find your assurance remarkable, Mr. Holmes. You seem to consider yourself above the law.
On the contrary, my lord, I merely prefer to obey it in advance.
You have been fortunate, sir, that your rash conduct has not led to scandal. The Prime Minister himself is aware of your eccentricities. He has expressed no small anxiety over your methods.
The Prime Minister is an admirable man, though occasionally inclined to caution. Yet, I suspect he will forgive my eccentricities when he reads tomorrow's report.
Lord Cantlemere drew himself up, visibly affronted. For a moment, I feared that his pride would master his gratitude.
I am not accustomed, Mr. Holmes, to being treated with levity.
Nor I, my lord, to having my honesty questioned. Perhaps this will relieve your mind.
He drew from his pocket a small morocco case, opened it, and took out the great diamond. Even in the subdued lamplight, it gleamed with 1,000 fires, casting dancing points of light upon the walls.
The Mazarin Stone, my lord. By Yord! I retained it merely to verify its authenticity before the police took charge. You may convince yourself that it is indeed the same.
After a pause, I see. Then I have been hasty.
Not at all. Caution is the first duty of public servants.
Lord Cantlemere took the stone with hands that trembled slightly in spite of himself. For the first time his expression softened, though his voice still bore a trace of stiffness.
Mr. Holmes, the government owes you a debt which it is not easy to acknowledge publicly. The recovery of this jewel saves the ministry from a grave embarrassment.
I ask no acknowledgement, my lord. The consciousness of duty performed is its own reward. Nevertheless, if the Prime Minister should feel disposed to send a note of thanks to Dr. Carr, Watson, whose presence was invaluable, I should be gratified.
Holmes, I protested, you know I did nothing.
On the contrary, my dear fellow, you did everything. You represented the conscience of the observer, without which no drama is complete.
You are a strange man, Mr. Holmes. I do not pretend to understand you.
Nor need you, my lord. It suffices that you understand your own affairs, which I trust will now proceed more smoothly. Good evening.
Lord Cantlemere bowed coldly and withdrew, carrying the gem with him. For some minutes after the door had closed, Holmes stood motionless, his eyes fixed upon the empty chair. You bear him no resentment, I asked.
Resentment? My dear Watson, resentment is the luxury of the idle. A man who spends his life observing human folly can scarcely afford to feel it. The noble lord acts according to his lights, which are gas rather than electricity.
And yet, I said, he could not even bring himself to thank you.
Gratitude, Watson, is an emotion of which the aristocracy is constitutionally incapable. They inherit pride, not manners, but no matter. The stone is safe, the villains are secured, and Baker Street is once more our own. I propose a modest celebration.
Champagne?
Tea, my dear fellow, always tea. It clears the brain and sharpens the tongue.
He busied himself with the kettle, while I, still musing on the events of the night, gazed at the wax figure that had played so strange a part in our adventure. You would return that ghastly likeness to Madame Tussauds, I hope? I asked.
Indeed, it has served its purpose admirably. One could almost envy its serenity. Observe, Watson, how it sits there, unmoved by the follies of mankind, a model of composure, if somewhat deficient in wit.
Hugh laughed softly, and for a moment his usual good spirits returned.
You see, my friend, life is but a succession of little comedies played upon the stage of circumstance. Tonight we have been actors, our audience unseen, our applause, the silence that follows a well-executed stratagem.
And tomorrow, I asked, what new mystery will claim your mind?
Tomorrow, perhaps, none. Even a consulting detective must sometimes rest. But rest to me is but a change of problem. I have long neglected my study of the polyphonic motets of Lassus. Perhaps I shall devote the morning to music,
Holmes, I said with affection, you are the strangest mixture of the scientist and the poet that ever breathed.
Possibly. But remember, Watson, it is the poet who perceives the invisible connections which the scientist later proves. The theory of deduction is but the prose of poetry.
As he spoke, I realized once again how profoundly his mind differed from that of ordinary men, keen as a razor, yet touched by a strange and melancholy humanity that set him apart. The lamplight fell softly upon his features, and for an instant I thought him older, graver, as though the years of battle against crime had left their shadow upon his soul.
You grow sentimental, Watson. I see it in your eyes. Come, fill your cup. Sentiment, like fog, is best dispelled by warmth.
I obeyed, laughing in spite of myself. The tension of the evening dissolved in the comfort of familiar companionship and spoke little after that. But I could see that his thoughts wandered far beyond Baker Street to some realm of reason where every event fitted into its appointed place and even human folly had its calculated value. At last he rose, laid his violin gently upon the table, and turned to me with that grave courtesy which was his truest charm.
Good night, Watson. You have seen one more proof that the most complex problems yield to simplicity when approached with method. Remember that in medicine, as in crime, the key lies not in what is hidden, but in what is overlooked.
Good night, Holmes, I said. You make everything sound elementary.
Everything is elementary when once you know how to see.
He smiled, extinguished the lamp, and left me in the quiet glow of the dying fire. Outside, London murmured its eternal tune, the song of 1,000 hearts beating beneath the shroud of night. And I, looking at the waxen effigy that still sat before the hearth, thought how strange it was that a mere likeness of my friend could seem so lifeless when the real Holmes, for all his calm, burned with the light of unquenchable spirit. The following morning grew clear and cold, eyed, with a pale autumn sun struggling through the yellow London fog. I rose early, for the events of the previous night had left me too restless for sleep. As I descended to the sitting room, I found Holmes already at the breakfast table, a cup of steaming coffee before him, and the morning papers spread in orderly confusion across the cloth. His eyes were bright, his manner unusually serene, and a faint smile lingered about his lips as though he took some private amusement in the world's affairs.
Oh, good morning, my dear Watson. You appear as though the ghosts of Baker Street had kept you company through the night. Did my violin disturb your slumber?
Not in the least, Holmes. I believe it soothes rather than troubles me. Yet, I confess, my mind still reels from the audacity of your plan. Quace, to place yourself within a few feet of an armed ruffian, trusting to a waxen figure for your safety. It was madness and genius combined.
The line between madness and genius, my friend, is often but the thickness of a violin string. When one strikes it true, the note is harmony. When false, disaster. Last night the harmony prevailed.
He sipped his coffee thoughtfully, his long fingers drumming upon the table. The faint rustle of newspapers punctuated the silence. And thus,
Observe the headlines, Watson. Brilliant capture by the police. The Mazarin Stone recovered. Note how modestly my name is omitted. It is as if Lestrade had single-handedly restored order to the empire.
I smiled. Surely you do not resent that omission, Holmes? You have never cared for public fame?
Resentment? Not in the least. I have often observed that praise, like sunlight, dazzles more than it warms. Let the good inspector enjoy his hour. He has earned it by faithfully obeying my instructions.
And Lord Candlemere? I asked. Do you expect he would publish his gratitude as well?
Lord, Lord Candlemere will publish nothing, save perhaps another regulation concerning the thickness of treasury envelopes. His gratitude will remain as silent as his intellect. But come, Watson, you are unusually grave this morning. What clouds your usually cheerful reason?
Joe, I was thinking, I said slowly, how strange it is that men like Sylvius and Merton, endowed with intelligence, strength, and opportunity, should turn their gifts to crime. What drives such minds to darkness?
Excellent question, and one that touches the root of my profession. Crime, Watson, is but the natural expression of misdirected ability. The criminal mind is not necessarily deficient, it is often merely distorted. When imagination is severed from conscience, it becomes ingenuity in evil.
Then you regard crime as a form of misplaced genius?
Precisely. I have known pickpockets who would have made mathematicians, forgers who might have excelled as artists, and blackmailers who possessed the analytical acumen of philosophers. Yet all lacked that moral compass which points from self towards service. It is, as I have often said, not the brain, but the soul that defines a man.
I pondered his words, struck as ever by the mingling of intellect and moral gravity that marked his speech. Outside, the faint hum of London filtered through the window, the clatter of carriages, the cry of a newspaper boy proclaiming the triumph of the police. Holmes, I said at length, you have spent your life studying crime and its causes. Do you never tire of it? Of the endless deceit, the baseness, the corruption?
Tired? No, my dear fellow. Disgusted at times. Yes, wearied, never. To the student of human nature, even folly is instructive. When one perceives the law behind the apparent chaos, the ugliness of the act becomes but a clue to the beauty of order. Each criminal I apprehend is a demonstration, not a surprise.
Yet surely the cost is heavy. You live among shadows, Holmes. I sometimes fear that their darkness might one day touch even your spirit.
Possibly, but light is known only by contrast, my friend. The chemist must handle poisons to discover antidotes. The surgeon must cut to heal. My work, too, is a kind of surgery performed upon the moral diseases of mankind.
And do you never think of rest, of a life beyond this constant conflict?
Rest when the world is cured of folly, perhaps. But until then, I am content to serve as its physician. And you, Watson, would you truly wish to see me idle, smoking away my days in some provincial garden without a problem to stir my blood?
I laughed despite myself. It is difficult to picture you without a mystery, Holmes. You would find secrets in the very pattern of the ivy leaves.
Precisely. Even in retirement, I suspect I should deduce the gardener's habits by the footprints in the dew. No, my dear fellow, peace for me is but a pause between questions.
At that moment, there came a light tapping at the door. Mrs. Hudson entered, bearing a telegram upon a tray. Holmes took it with a nod of thanks, tore it open, and scanned its contents rapidly.
Ah, as I predicted, The Prime Minister requests a brief interview this afternoon. He will, no doubt, express the nation's gratitude through silence and a closed envelope.
Will you attend him?
Certainly. Diplomacy is the art of concealing intelligence, and I have always admired it. Still, it is well to remind the powers that logic remains more efficient than luck.
Holmes, I said, you seem almost cheerful at the prospect.
Why not? I am about to witness a politician attempting sincerity. Such spectacles are rare and worth observing.
His humor was dry, yet beneath it I felt a spark of pride, as though the approval of the state, however muted, touched him more deeply than he cared to admit. He rose, paced the room once or twice, then paused before the window.
Look out there, Watson. The streets teem with 1,000 dramas, each insignificant, yet all governed by the same principles. The cabman who cheats his fare, the clerk who lies to his employer, the lover who deceives his mistress. They are but variations on the same eternal theme. Motive, opportunity, and character, the triad of all human conduct.
And yet, I said, there are also acts of kindness, of courage, of sacrifice. Do they fit within your triad as well?
Certainly, for every villain there is a hero, for every deception, a truth. The formula of goodness is not less precise than that of evil. It is merely less studied. But perhaps that is your department, my dear doctor. You deal with the maladies of the body and the virtues of the heart. I concern myself with the diseases of the mind.
And together, I ventured, we make one tolerably complete man.
Indeed, a partnership of contrasts, your sympathy to my reason, your humanity to my logic. You may rest assured, Watson, that I value it more than I have ever said.
For a moment, I could not speak. It was rare for Holmes to show such warmth, and rarer still for him to address our friendship directly. I saw then, behind his cool exterior, the deep loyalty that underlay his every act. Before I could reply, Lestrade entered hastily, his bowler hat in hand, his face glowing with official satisfaction.
Morning, Mr. Holmes. The papers are full of it. Finest piece of detective work this side of the channel, they're saying. I've had word from the yard. The Count and Merton will be remanded without bail.
I am gratified, Inspector, that the machinery of justice still functions when properly wound. Will you take a cup of coffee?
Don't mind if I do, sir. Oh, and the Chief Commissioner asked me to convey his compliments. Said you handle things with your usual discretion. Between you and me, that's high praise.
High, indeed. Discretion, like virtue, is often rewarded by being ignored. Tell the Commissioner that I am content to remain invisible, provided the truth remains visible.
I'll do that, sir. Well, I won't keep you. Good day, Doctor. Good day, Mr. Holmes.
When Lestrade had gone, Holmes returned to his chair, lighting a cigarette with that air of tranquil satisfaction which always followed a successful case.
There, Watson, ends another little problem of human foolishness. Tomorrow it will be forgotten, save by those whose duty is to remember.
And by me, I said quietly, for I shall set it down in my notes, lest the world forgets how justice was served in Baker Street.
Then see that you record it truly, my dear biographer, without embellishment, without sentiment. Acts are the bones of truth. Imagination, if used unwisely, is but the flesh that hides them.
Yet, I said, smiling, you yourself possess imagination in abundance.
Imagination, when governed by logic, is but the faculty of perceiving what is possible. When left to wander, it becomes the parent of superstition and the ruin of reason. Remember that, Watson, when next you write of me as if I were a magician rather than a man.
I promised him I would. Though I knew my pen would never wholly conceal the admiration his genius inspired in me, for despite all his disclaimers, there was in Sherlock Holmes something more than human, a spirit of inquiry so pure that it seemed almost divine. Ah, yeah, Thus the day wore on, quiet and reflective. The smoke of London thickened once more about our windows, but within, the glow of friendship and reason shone clear. Holmes turned again to his violin, and as the music rose, I felt that peace had at last returned to Baker Street. The afternoon passed in tranquil routine, and by the time the first lamps were lit in Baker Street, Holmes had completed his correspondence, filed several documents, and was engaged in tuning his violin with the precision of a mathematician aligning a compass. I had taken up a book, but the memory of the case still occupied my mind, coloring every word I read with recollection of danger and triumph. At 5:30, a hansom cab drew up outside. Through the window, I saw a tall figure in dark coat and hat alight and pay the driver. Holmes, without rising, said quietly,
That will be the Prime Minister, Watson. Oh, he is punctual to the minute as becomes one accustomed to punctual misfortunes.
A moment later, our landlady ushered in a gentleman of middle age, his face thin and thoughtful, with that air of habitual anxiety peculiar to men upon whose shoulders rest the burdens of empire.
Mr. Holmes, I am deeply obliged that you have permitted me to call unannounced.
My dear sir, your affairs are my recreation. Pray be seated. I believe I may already guess the nature of your visit.
You have rendered a service to the Crown, Mr. Holmes, which cannot be measured by ordinary standards. The recovery of the Mazarin Stone has averted a scandal that might have shaken confidence in the government itself. His Majesty's gratitude is unbounded.
His Majesty's approval is reward enough. But since gratitude is a rare commodity in official circles, I shall preserve this moment as a curiosity of natural history.
You are severe, Mr. Holmes, though perhaps not unjust. Still, you must understand that political necessity often forbids public recognition. I am empowered, however, to express privately the esteem in which your talents are held.
I am honored, though I must confess that private esteem is less gratifying to the public appetite than a printed apology. Nevertheless, the Empire's affairs must take precedence over my vanity. How is your lordship's health?
Indifferent as ever. It's a care of state or a heavier affliction than gout, though perhaps less curable.
Then I prescribe leisure, a foreign climate, and a clean conscience. 3 things, I suspect, difficult to procure simultaneously in political life.
You jest, Mr. Holmes. Yet there is truth beneath your irony. The world moves too swiftly, and those who govern it must run breathless to keep pace. I envy you your freedom.
Freedom, sir, is but the privilege of obscurity. Were I in your position, I should envy the humblest clerk who can err in private.
Timid, the statesman smiled faintly and drew from his breast pocket a sealed envelope.
I was instructed to convey this to you on behalf of the Treasury. It contains the government's recognition such as it can offer of your invaluable services.
My thanks, though I fear the acknowledgement will find its way to the fund for tobacco and monographs. I have long since ceased to measure success in guineas.
Be that as it may, England owes you more than coin. If ever you should require favour or protection, you have but to command it.
Protection, my dear sir, is for those who have enemies. I have only clients. As for favour, I prefer the impartiality of fortune to the gratitude of ministers. Still, your offer does me honour, and I shall remember it, should I ever wish to purchase silence rather than justice.
You speak with a cynicism that is almost heroic, Mr. Holmes.
Heroism, my lord, is but cynicism in good health.
The Prime Minister rose, smiling in spite of himself, and extended his hand.
I see, Mr. Holmes, that the government must content itself with your respect, since it can never hope for your allegiance.
My allegiance, sir, is to truth. Governments change, kings die, but truth endures. That is the only master I serve.
Then may truth long employ you for England's sake. Good day, Doctor. Good day, Mr. Holmes.
When he had gone, Holmes opened the envelope carelessly, glanced at its contents, and tossed it upon the table.
A check, as I supposed. I sometimes wonder, Watson, whether the Treasury keeps a separate account for gratitude. It must be a very small one.
You should not make light of it, I said. Few men receive such recognition.
Recognition, my dear fellow, is the opiate of mediocrity. To work for it is to sell one's reason to applause. I prefer the solitude of my own conviction.
Yet there must be satisfaction, I insisted, in knowing that you have served your country.
There is satisfaction in knowing that I have served reason. The country benefits incidentally. When one sees clearly, one serves all mankind without distinction.
His words, calm though they were, struck me with a kind of awe, for it seemed to me that in that moment he stood not merely as a man of intellect, but as a symbol of pure intellect itself, aloof, impartial, untouchable. Holmes, I said after a pause, do you ever regret that your life is so isolated that you stand apart from the world you guard?
Regret? Perhaps once in youth. But observation cures sentiment, just as surgery cures pain. The man who feels too deeply cannot reason clearly. I have trained myself to feel only what logic demands.
And yet, I ventured gently, you possess a heart, Holmes, though you disguise it. As, why endure the struggle? Why expose yourself to peril for men who will never thank you?
Because, Watson, indifference is the true form of cruelty. I have seen too much of it in this city. The poor betrayed by the powerful, the honest deceived by the clever. If I fight, it is not for gratitude, but for balance. The world must not lean too far toward evil.
His voice softened, and for a brief instant I caught a glimpse of that deeper nature which he so seldom revealed, the compassion hidden beneath the armor of logic. You are right, I said quietly. The world would indeed lean without you.
And without you, my dear fellow, it would fall. You lend it the equilibrium of faith. I merely supply the proof.
I was about to reply when the last flush of sunset glimmered through the fog, turning the smoke of London to gold. So Holmes stood at the window, the dying light touching his features like a benediction.
Look there, Watson. The city sprawls like a great organism, half asleep, half awake. Every window hides a story. Every alley conceals a motive. To me, it is one vast equation, unsolved, yet solvable.
And you, I said, are the one man who seeks to solve it.
Perhaps, or perhaps I merely trace its outline while others fill in the colors. In the end, we all play parts we scarcely comprehend. The criminal thinks he acts freely. The judge believes he condemns justly. The detective imagines he restores order. Yet all alike obey the same invisible law,
What law is that?
the law of consequence. Every thought, every act sets its echo moving through the world. Crime is but ignorance of that law. Virtue, its understanding. In that sense, even I am but a student, an apprentice of the infinite.
Good. His words fell softly, yet with a weight that lingered long after. I realized then how far his mind had traveled beyond the limits of mere detection into realms of philosophy where few men could follow. Holmes, I said after a moment, Barnes and Ping, I sometimes wonder whether you will ever find a problem large enough to content you.
When I do, my dear Watson, it will probably be my last. The final deduction is death, and I have no wish to prove it prematurely.
Smiled at his grim jest, but my heart grew heavy, for I knew that such men are not made for rest. The world would always call him back as the magnet draws the needle. Then until that day, I said, I shall continue to record your victories, and England shall know what manner of man guards her peace.
Right then, Watson. But write truthfully. If the world must have a hero, let him at least be human. The myth of perfection is the refuge of fools. Or yet,
Yet you, Holmes, I said, are nearer to perfection than any man I have known.
flattery, my dear doctor, is the anesthetic of friendship. Fortunately, our friendship is immune. Come, let us have supper, Mrs. Limmel. Hudson will despair if her chops grow cold, while we discuss metaphysics.
He rang the bell with his usual decision, and in a few moments our modest meal was before us. We ate in companionable silence, broken only by the distant rumble of wheels and the crackle of the fire. At length, Holmes pushed back his chair and reached for his violin. The first notes rose soft and mournful, filling the room with a melancholy beauty. It seemed to me that the melody spoke of all we had shared, of danger faced, of mysteries solved, of the unspoken bond between two men who had walked together through the shadows of London. When the last note faded, Holmes laid the instrument aside and looked at me with that faint smile I had come to know so well.
And so, my dear Watson, another page is turned. The Mazarin Stone rests in its case, the villains in their cells, and well, we remain, as ever, students of the curious and the improbable.
Until the next adventure, I said softly.
Until the next adventure. For life, after all, is but a series of deductions, each leading to another question. The trick lies not in finding answers, but in never ceasing to ask.
He rose, drew the curtains, and stood for a moment gazing into the fire. Delight flickered upon his thin, aquiline face, and I thought that no figure in all London was more lonely or more magnificent. Then he turned, and with that characteristic gesture of quiet finality, he said,
Good night, Watson.
Good night, Holmes. And so ended the adventure of the Mazarin Stone. One more triumph in the long chronicle of my friend, Scudder, and another proof that genius, though solitary, is never sterile. For in every case he touched, Holmes brought not only justice but illumination. He made the darkness itself seem intelligible. As I left him that night, the last sound I heard was the faint whisper of his bow upon the strings, a voice half human, half divine, speaking of mysteries yet to come.